what the business community is doing is extremely helpful because it's giving those young people who want to do better. They've been through the youth works and worked for the city. They've worked out in the parks. They've worked in the rec centers, but they want to enhance their job readiness skills. The Hire One Youth program is a modern program for today's workforce that is really helping those kids, and that's why I pointed him out, because I'm very, very grateful. What you see from those programs are stories of today, young people that are doing that exact same thing, putting that money on to the side, finding their independence, finding their value, seeing that they can add, they can be productive members of society, finding out what they want to do with themselves. Because sometimes you can learn a lot in school, but you might not see yourself in any of those things, and the opportunities that that they're getting from the Hire One Youth employers, they're finding what they want to do with the rest of their lives. So we're on the same page. We need to continue to make sacrifices, which I did. We did, in some cases had to rob Peter to pay Paul to make sure we had all that money there for youth works, but that's there. And when we couldn't do any more, the business community has stepped up in a big way, and I want to thank them for that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilman Scott had his hand up. He wanted to also chime in, Madam Mayor. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say, ma'am, as the youngest elected official in the city, is someone that was not that long ago a youth works worker. When I worked youth works, all we did was cut grass and make lunches. That's all we were able to do. But today, and actually today, the program that you talk about today still exists, but it exists in different forms. I actually came here from the Good Now PAL Center that's still open, never closed. And all of the workers there that work with the young kids every day are young people from the neighborhood, and they're paid through a wonderful program that we have called Civic Works. And we have that throughout different places throughout the city where we have these young people. They get paid to go to this place every day to work and be with those young people. So you have to look at it, for me, it has to be like a multifaceted approach. The program in Youth Works, actually, a lot of the kids still work year-round in their program as well. So those kind of programs are still going on. We just have to do a better job of highlighting.
Thank you, Councilman. Up front, we have a comment from the CRC president. I want to make sure we get you in. And I just want to share, we do, thanks to the president of the MedStar Good Samaritan, Madam Mayor, we did promise to be out of this facility at a certain time. It is now, according to the clock, I have 8:41. 8:45 is our cutoff time. We have several minutes. But I want to give the president of the CRC an opportunity to give his comment. So we come to the gentleman standing to behind the cap. Yes, sir.
Okay, one of the comments I'd like to make was that someone made a comment about the police officers brutalizing the citizens. What most of you don't know, in the Northeast, Internal Affairs have 2 booklets to tell you how to file a complaint against an officer. And we had the complaint forms right up front. All you have to do is go into the district, ask for a form. If you speak Spanish, they'll give you a booklet in Spanish. If you speak English, they'll give you the booklet in English, and it'll take you step by step. And we also have an officer there that can also assist you from Internal Affairs. That was one of the things that I wanted to add on, that I think that the question wasn't totally answered. My question is, when will we be getting new cars, more cars?
And that is a good question. Part of the thing that we built into our negotiation contract that was ratified is to have new cars, because the way that we do the deployment, we're going to have more officers out during the times of crime from 4 p.m. to about 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. So we have so many officers during that time, we need more cars. And so as part of the contract, we have cars that were already slated for replacement, and then we have another 130 cars that are slated to come in based on the contract. So we have more cars that are coming. This time we allow the officers to get engaged in, we ask them what type of cars that they want. We allow them to look at the cars and to, because that's their office, that's where they are 8 or 10 hours a day. So they're picking out the cars, they're also looking at the color, they're also looking at the prototype and what that car is going to look like, so they can take pride in the car. So we have them come in, they're on the way, and hopefully they'll be here soon. Hopefully.
Yes, sir.
My hand has been up for about an hour now. They've been going around the room to everyone else and not coming to me. I have a question too. I'm a part of the community too.
And we will come to you. And we will come to you as soon as we come to this gentleman with this.
Brandon Scott, I agree with your curfew for the teenagers. My son, on Mother's Day, was pulled over by Baltimore City Police Department for curfew. This officer, Caesar Muhammad, badge number J057, got out of his car, threw my son on his head twice. My son had a gash in the front part of his head. My son had a gash on the side of his head. My son had a hole in the side of his face from the officer. After he placed my son in cuffs, he put his foot on my son's face. Now I want to know what's going to happen when you have these situations that come about with these teenagers. What's going to take place? We're going to get another Tyrone West situation. My cousin Tyrone West was brutally beat by Baltimore City Police Department. 10 to 12 officers and Morgan State officers. None of these officers was prosecuted. The officer who did this to my son, he was not prosecuted. He's still out on the streets. I'm letting you know that your teenagers be aware of these murdering cops who's out here doing whatever they want to do to these kids.
And Abdul Salam was brutally beat 2 weeks prior by the same two, Nicholas Davis Chapman and Officer Ruiz. If they would have pulled them off the street and put them behind the desk, my brother Tyrone West would still be alive.
Thank you. So now we're going to give the mayor.
I think it's really important.
Response.
Yeah, I think it's really important to look straight ahead and have these conversations because there again, I work for you. You pay my salary based on your tax dollars. And I was very, very clear at the beginning. I call strikes and balls. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not going to be hiding anything. I'm going to be transparent. When I came here and I landed on a Sunday, when I came here to work and I landed on a Sunday, I was meeting with a family that next day because an event took place on Friday. So I met with that family right away. And what I was doing is setting a tone in this police organization to let people know, number one, I care about everybody in the city. I care about humanity. I care about life. I don't care what's going on. The life makes a difference. You can hear it in me. When I'm talking here and I'm getting a little emotional, I'm not faking it. That means something to me. This is what I've been doing for 33 years, and we're gonna change and make a difference within the organization. When we have conflict, number one, Rodney Hill is a guy that I hired and brought in. He used to prosecute police officers, and I talked him into coming over to be in charge of internal affairs. So he's in charge of internal affairs. He's a fresh start. He's a good guy. He's solid. He calls balls and strikes. And so I bring him to these meetings. So number one, when we have complaints, he takes that information down, and he will follow up and he will report out. When we have very conflictual situations that take place in the community that are very high profile, in order to be transparent, and I have to really applaud the West family because they truly are a tight family and they've been out and vocal for over almost going on a year. So I applaud them and what they're doing. And they took me on early on and I paid attention to what they were saying. I listened to what they said and what the emotions and the feelings that they were dealing with. And I didn't kind of throw it to the side. Now what we've done to make sure that we're transparent is that we've brought in an outside task force of people that are not affiliated with us, have no connection to us, and what I have said to them is review this. And we brought in experts. People who are experts who will call balls and strikes and say, all I'm asking you to do is tell the truth. Good, bad, and different, all I'm looking for you is to tell the truth and tell it to the public. So we have put that task force together. Rodney oversees that. He's called, how many is it, 7 or 8? Six experts together who will be coming forth hopefully in a short amount of time to do a report and share. And there again, I'm not going to color what they're saying. I'm going to say step up to that podium if it's our training, if it's something that officers did, or if the officers did the correct thing also. I just want you to tell the truth and be honest and come to that table. So we're not hiding from anything. We won't hide from anything. The thing with your son, we will look into that and we will review. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So again, thank you very much, Commissioner, for the response. I just want to say to the family, I know that you've been at our public safety forums before. I just want to make it clear that I understand that you're grieving. We've talked. You know that, despite y'all coming and yelling at me, you know I'm the one that sat down and met with you. You asked for a coroner's report. You know, we've talked, you know, the coroner doesn't work for me, works for the governor, but I still reached out. I requested that coroner's report be done. You asked for an investigation. It wasn't done by the state's attorney. The only investigation is being done in my direction. Right? So, I hear you, but and don't think that it's not at the front of my mind because we're working on it. So, you know, I know that you continue to come to the forums, and I know you feel like you're not being heard, but that's going up against the facts of the matter. We've met, we've talked. Even though the coroner doesn't work for me, I'll work to get that report, and I'm investigating. He still doesn't work for me. But the only investigation that's happening is happening in my direction. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sir, you have the actual last question.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure, Madam Mayor, if I could just ask you this and go digress for a second. It was you and you alone who actually sent the letter and requested a coroner's report. Am I correct? And that was without being asked. You did that because you wanted to get started.
We all want to get to
met with
right,
the family.
and we want to get to the answer.
Thank you. And the coroner does not work for you, Madam Mayor, but you're continuing to be consistent with working on behalf of that issue. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Joseph Rain. I'll try to make it quick. I know that the police department can't do it all, and we all know that. My question is, and it's very important, and I'm not sure if I missed it. I came here kind of late. But my question is, how is the mayor's office, the police department, dealing with the youth as far as mentorship? I know that's very, very important because you only have so many police officers. And I know growing up as a child, I'm from New York, I was raised on the streets of New York, so I've seen all types of violence, been on all sides of it. And I know for me, 99% of it because I didn't have the mentorship. I didn't have someone to take me by the hand and say, you know what, this is how you're supposed to do, this is what you're supposed to do. So my question is, you know, I'm big in the church right now. And me and church members, we knock on doors and we spread the gospel, which is very successful, praise the Lord. But amen. But my question is, from the city standpoint, from the mayor's office, what groups, what things do you do from a civilian standpoint that reaches out to the young men? And I get the tweets from the Baltimore City's department, and I hear all the bad news. And I knew about this in New York when they said about Baltimore, but it's totally different than New York because y'all much smaller. But the question is, what are we doing to mentor? We have so many women, single women with these children, no fathers. And the violence, yeah, you may have police being violent, that's true. But 99% of the violence is black on black crime, with young men against young women against young men. I see it, I read it, and I follow it every day throughout the world. Because I pray. Yeah, I'm sorry. My question, yes, thank you very much. My question is, what groups, what do you have for mentorship, and are you uniting with the churches? Because I think that would be a better step to help with neighbors and people going door to door to help these young men and young women that don't have the leadership.
Well, I think you just took my playbook, and it's a good way for me to end the answer of my last question real quick, because you kind of teed us up. Remember I told you where I came from, South Central Los Angeles? You may have seen movies about South Central Los Angeles at different times. You know, I wear this uniform because I was mentored by a police officer. I wear this uniform that someone took the time to touch me as a young man and say that you can become something. For me, it's becoming a police chief or commissioner in 3 different police departments in the United States. And I came from that Police Explorer program that I told you about. The reason I want to build that is because I'm a product of that. And where I came from, police officers were not looked upon very kindly. They were not liked. There was words like pig, swine. You guys remember that from the 60s, because I come from that generation. And so those were those different names that were being called. But it was for that positive interaction that I have is where I wear that uniform today. And the reason I do what I do is because I want to make an impact on some young life that 33 years later they can say I met this police chief or commissioner that impacted my life, that made a difference. I talked about Explorer Camp Because part of what we're doing is not just the sports, it's connecting with the relationships to do the mentoring. And that's what we're really trying to do. So when I talk about what we can do about 5-year-olds, I'm not just talking, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. In the business community, I need transportation to get those kids there. So if the business community wants to step up, I need to get Mr. Bryce, I need to do transportation to get my kids to the Explorer Camp. But that's what we're doing. And beyond just the camp, I'm trying to push for my officers to build that relationship to mentor. This young man here, I'm going to get out of the camera zone. You see him, if you follow me, you see him just standing around. He talks in his sleep sometimes. He has this funny thing in his ear. And he just stands. You just think he's a weird dude, just kind of hanging out there. This young man here, his name is Ryan. Ryan lives in a 100% African American community. He chooses to live in a 100% African American community that is struggling. When we go out on the street, young men come up to him all the time and say, "Mr. Ryan, how you doing? It's good to see you," shaking hands, and they give him a big smile, they give him a big hug. He's very active in his church. Church happens not to be Caucasian church, and he's giving to that community. He's mentoring. When I went to Frederick Douglass High School, one of the young men that I talked to got up, went over and shook his hand. I'm saying, how about me, man? I can't talk to you. He walked past me to shake his hand. There's many officers. You hear about some of these things that are going on. Some true, some not true, but the things that you hear that are going on at different times, there's a lot of these police officers who give their time in football, give their